And there are important aspects of a group. Number one is how groups form. If I may ask the bishop, how did you come together in order to form a church? Because I know you agreed with your wife. But surely it wouldn't have made a church with only a husband and wife. There were a few other people, like-minded people, that you came together. Now, remember where he left. He left at a point where we have formed a board. And we are asking ourselves, how does this board function? The board has formed. How does it function? Then the structure and processes and how they function. So I would like to then give you a model that was developed way back in 1965 by a guy called Bruce Tuckman. You see, when you go home and they're asking you, what are you people doing? They tell them we are dealing with church governance. Then they ask you, were there details of what you are doing? Begin to say, today we learned Bruce Tuckman, 1965. Now they think, you must have learned something. When he asks for the details, tell them the details. You should have been there. Actually, it was very good, right? Very good. So, now, there are 5 stages in group formation. And I want you to see whether you can identify with those stages in any group that you have been. By the way, this happens whether it is in church or whether it is in a workplace. And by the way, did we say that the things that actually we are learning today, they are not just confined to be used in church? Go and use them in your neighborhood. Go and use them in your workplace. Go and use them in your business. Especially ikiwa uko na biashara. Lakini mambo ya corporate governance unauliza, unaniambia ni form board. Walikuwa wapi nikianzisha hii kampuni? That is why family businesses don't outlive their founders. And there are many examples that we can talk about. We don't want to mention names here, but we know where the father and the mother were very, very successful. But now the children, they don't know nothing. Maybe the one that was that is very good, one can use because it was in a public domain, was Tuskys. Do you remember Tuskys? Yeah, when the grandchildren came ejecting the CEO away, they were saying, toka hapa, hii kitu ni alikuwa ya babu yetu, na wewe unakuja kuharibu. I still remember the words of the CEO as he exited. He told those children, you will regret this day. And surely, after 2 weeks, Tuskys was normal. Because the kids did not know that a business is run in a structured way. They think that if they come and become managing director, this thing is going to work. We are going to get more money. Everyone will be driving a V8. Lakini huyu CEO anakataa na pesa ndi ikuwe yetu. Very good. Now, you start with the forming stage. Mume come together in a team, all in a board. Team acquaints and establishes ground rules. Formalities are preserved and the members treat each other as strangers. Kwa sababu hujui huyu mtu, humjui hata kidogo. Unashindwa huyu ni kina nani. Then the next stage, as the group continue growing, is the storming stage. You know, members begin to resist leadership. Have you ever been put in leadership and the members are asking, where did they dig this one from? That this is going to be our chair. How? Anajaribu kuongea, unamwambia wewe hatukusikizi. And then you go to the norming stage. Norming stage, people feel they are part of a team and they realize they can achieve work if they accept other viewpoints. Then we move to performing. Now people are flying and they are working. There is output, there is productivity as we work. And then there is adjourning because we formed a group for a specific task. Now let me speak why I'm bringing this issue here when we are talking about a board. It's because if one person retire or leaves the group and you are at performing stage and that person needs to be replaced, they come back. Sometimes they will take you back several steps backward. Is that true? Anaanza maswali zingine hatutaki kusema za ujinga, lakini mnashindwa hii mtu. Ignorance tu. Anauliza maswali ya definitions na hiyo tulipita zamani. Hata anauliza na hapa sini hapa sana kuanga nani? Si tulidhania kila mtu anajua. Anauliza what is the P box of this church? Si tunajua hiyo maneno. Anarudisha nyinyi nyuma. So that's why when you form a group, don't allow it that everybody retires at the same time. Have a staggering retirement age, so that there is continuity. Haya. But there are factors that contribute to poor group dynamics. The first one is weak leadership. Because if you put in a person, you have a very good group, a very good team, but the leader that you have in that team is one that cannot lead, it becomes difficult. Or even excessive deference to authority. And this happens when group members want to be seen to agree with the leader and therefore hold back from expressing their own opinions. By the way, as a leader, let me say, if ever you talk to people and all they are saying, yes, 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 hapo kuna shida ni kubwa hapo. We ubekeirwo keiho. No nduri ureka atia? Ujajua. What is keiho? Is it a monguzo? I don't. Amefichwa huko ndani na hii yes. If you hear everybody is saying yes, 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 anything you suggest. Can we put a door here? Let's change that door from here to here. Yes. Or then another time, can we change it here? Yes. Shida iko mingi. Wanataka kusema we endelea na hii mambo yako ujikarange nayo. They don't want to be part of that decision making. Now, the next thing is something we call blocking. Let me talk about blocking and we will see. How do we block? We block one with the presence of somebody called aggressor. This is a member who often disagrees with others or is inappropriately outspoken. Have you ever tried in a group to talk to people and kuna mutu haagri na mutu hata kidogo? Ukimwambia sasa mimi nafikiria kununua plot the Degwa. Anakuambia huko the Degwa kuko na wezi. Haya, unakuja unamwambia sasa nimeipata Ruda. Anakuambia huko ni wadosi. Haya, unamwambia sasa nimeipata Roiro. Anakuambia Roiro na Airbnb huko. Hapana. Unashindwa, unataka ninunue wapi? Have you come across such people? Yes, they are there. They are aggressor, they are out, they disagree. Then there is the negator, who is a member who is often critical of others' ideas. You have met in a board, you are discussing very serious issues. Every time the agenda is put, anasema, Mr. Chairman, sir, ana block hiyo kitu. Unajaribu kuongea, anasema hapana. Hapana. Unamuuliza, so, and what is this your suggestion? Akasema, mi sikuwa nayo. Sasa, why are you then blocking everybody? Then there is another guy called the withdrawer. These are not available in GCI. We are just mentioning them from the other places. The withdrawer. This is a member who doesn't participate in discussions. They come to meeting, you ask them to propose. They say, let my neighbor propose. You ask them, can you second? No, let the other neighbor second. Can you take minute? No, me, my handwriting, nobody can. You say, can you then do the, no, actually let the neighbor. Then you even ask, please pray for the meeting. No, today I have sore throat. Again, they are not here. Accord, withdrawer. Then there is the recognition seeker. A member who is boastful or he dominates the session. Ukileta mambo ya mashamba, yeye ndio wako juu. Ukileta mambo ya equipment, yeye ndio anajua China kule inatoka. Ukileta hii ingine, yeye ndio ako juu. Hawako hapa najua, lakini mwasikia kule kwingine, eh? Very good. Then there is the joker in a group. The joker is this guy who introduces humor at very inappropriate time. You are discussing about buying a plot of 15 million in the Degwa. Hiyo discussion imeshika moto. Alafu munasaviwa tea. Anasema na hii unga sio kafagara. You know, we are not here to discuss mandazi. We are here to discuss serious issues. Again, hawako hapa, wako kule kui. Hawakuja leo. There is also this thing that causes blocking. It's groupthink. It happens when people place desire for consensus above their desire to reach the right decision. They don't want to trouble their mind thinking so hard. They just say yes. And you want consensus. You don't want to hear a dissenting voice. It's very important to hear it. Then there is the free riding. These are some the members who take it easy and they leave their colleagues to do all the work. There are people, by the way, who come to the meeting. They neither second, they neither propose, they neither praise, nothing. They are waiting for the meeting to end so that they can start theirs. I know you don't know them. Then there are other people who never want to be asked about their performance. He signed up to be a member of the group, then he never comes to the meeting, he never even gives apology. Then you meet him and ask, are you still part of us? Nakuuliza kwa nini unaniuliza hii maneno? They never want, you give them a task, it is never done, but they don't want to be asked a question. Hawako hapa, tunaongea mambo ya? Very good. Now, I want you to watch very carefully this small video, short video. It's about teamwork, and I want you to pick certain aspects of this video. I hope it works. So I want to ask questions. Those people, they seem to be moving very fast, right? There are certain aspects that actually contributed to their achievement. Number one, on this side. Yes, sir. Preparation, that they were prepared. You realize that when they got into the boat, what did they do? To hook their feet where the foot is supposed to be. And to make sure that the moiko is in its place. Right? Preparation. Very good. Let me hear from that corner. Yes, sir. They were unified. Very good. Wonderful. So, yes, sir. They were all engaged. Nobody was dropping the ball. They are like Man City. Not these other guys who try to lead, but we catch up with them. Okay. A few more points. Yes, ma'am. They were facing the same direction. Say for one. Yeah, they are rolling backwards, but there is somebody who is facing where they are going, right? Did you realize that? Very good. Thank you very much. Yes. They were focused. They were focused. The reason why nyinyi watu wa Arsenal munapoteza, because you enjoy leadership and then you forget this is football. You entertain. Okay, very good. What else? They were engaged, yes. Very good. And there was synchrony. Did you realize that? That as you roll, you are not rolling after the other person. You are all rolling at the same. Because if you tilt it a little bit, it will actually veer off and it starts going a different direction. So you spend energy trying to bring it together. And so there was indeed preparation, synchrony, there was unity, there was engagement, there was a common goal, there was focus, and there was dedication. That's why that team actually won. Let's look at this other one. This other one is made up of only 4 people in a team. These guys have a little bit of things that we may learn from them. Oh, sorry. Okay. Seems I will have to play it from here. Let's see. He's a member of the team. In the meantime, he has had enough. There are 4 members of a team. The first one is called who? The performer. He takes responsibility. And he is wanting to see success. Then there is this other guy, the highly effective doer. He can do a good job if he is well cultured and well guided. But then there is the less effective doer. The one who comes and sits actually inside. He is helpful. He is trying to. Then there is this other guy who comes to the wheel. So when the wheel is going down, he is helping. But when the wheel is going up, you are actually carrying him. He is called potential trouble source. Then there is now the last guy. He is called the suppressor. He is actually blocking. He is putting brakes. And at the same time, anachokoza wengine. Nagonga na mawe. These people are not available in church. First of all, they are not available in GCI. 2, they are not available in any church. It's these companies that have nothing to do with. Are they available in church? I want to say something about this, one of the things. What do you think was the problem there? First of all, with the leader. The leader, can you say something about leader? That you felt there is something he didn't address that he should have. He did not position people where they can perform better. He did not organize the team. Anabeba mzigo wote mwenyewe. He is not like Jürgen Klopp. You know Jürgen Klopp? Jürgen Klopp is the coach of Liverpool. Unaona? He is able to organize people where each one of us. Are you a midfield, center, whatever? Are you a striker? Are you organized? And then the other thing that this leader didn't do, he was not looking back to check what is going on. Maybe had he looked, he would have probably whipped these guys before this other company overtook them. That's why sometimes you have a company, an organization, a church that has been there 20, 30 years. And the members initially were 50. The members have only changed by 2. And it's only biological. Because one of the members got children. The leader has got to always check. And if you find especially, you identify the suppressor, it's very important to act. If you are not able to act, you give it to the guys who are able to do what? To act. Do you remember what he said? Don't allow the pastor to be the one to fire and whatever. Give it to another group. And the pastor can easily say, actually, I was not in that meeting. But I can, which ni ukweli, hakuwa kwa hiyo mkutano. Na anaambia huyu mshirika, huyu member nitakuombea, Mungu akubariki. He opened doors actually. I prophesy that doors will open and so forth. But that suppressor must be gotten rid of. I have fired people. I have hired people. It is a very difficult thing to do, but must be done. Amen. So those are the guys. Then let's talk about again conflict. Conflict, we are saying we don't have conflict here. But let's just evaluate what is this. There is this statement, if you ever come across it, nose in, fingers out. Have you ever heard that statement? Nose in, fingers out. It is said in the context of corporate governance. So the people in the board, please know that you are not the doer of the work. Did you hear me? You allow the people responsible of doing the work to do. You deal with policy matters. Ukiona mtu anafanya kila kitu, board meeting, ndiye anafagia kanisa na hakuna shida kufagia kanisa. Ndiye anafanya hii, ndiye anafanya hii, anafanya hii, iko shida kidogo. Iko shida because there must be people who can do that work. Leave it to other people to do. Nose in, fingers out. That means your nose is around, nosing around what is going right, what is going wrong, but don't put your hand in the jar. Because then if you do, how are you going to question that? When things don't work as good as you may wish. Now, the levels of conflict normally begins with something that we call a blip. This happens to, in all circumstances, as long as there is human interaction. Today you sat next to somebody, right? Na huyo mtu si amekukanyanga leo kidogo. They didn't intend to step on you. They were simply moving their feet. Huyu amekukanyanga mara mingi. Amekuwa na mazoea. That's normal. That's normal. Including even in a family. You get married to the sweetheart of your life. You cannot sleep if I can't sleep before I see you. Mwah! We! Mtu anaingia kwa nyu? If hii ni real, hii si Alejandra. Sio kumbagia, inaitwa kumbagia. Yes, sio hii ni real, right? Muko nae life. Then you ask, this morning you had very, very beautiful hair. Wasn't it yours? Nasema yes, it was mine. I bought it. It is mine. Because men, sometimes we are not able to know which is the real hair and the other one that is not very real. We are not able. Wanaume wahurumiwe tafadhali. Tuhurumiwe. So, blipped. But then, if that blip is not managed, it develops into a what? A crash. You begin to crash. Then, if it develops, they come into crises. And let's move. So, those blips, they are inevitable in life. The way I eat perhaps is offensive to you. Because I came from the village, me, I don't know how to hold a fork as long as the food gets into there. But now you're told the fork is held with the left hand and the knife. And then you hold the knife like this. Sisi wenyewe tuna hold like ndio hii kitu ika. Then if it is a fork, unashika namna hiyo, unadunga na bora chakula iende kwa nini? kwa tumbo. Maneno ni, those are blips and so forth. Now, but when they move to crisis, you begin to feel a little bit angered with this person, feeling less trusting of the other, remaining angry at the other for a longer time, and so forth, and it goes on. If it's not handled, it develops into a crisis. You have decided to terminate the relationship because it's no longer serving our interest. You fear that your other will terminate the relationship, and there is risk of even physical violence. Why am I talking about this? Is because if you don't address the thing at its source before it grows, and we'll be talking about conflict management in a minute, it is going to grow and you'll never be able to actually resolve it. The aim is whenever there is a conflict, you want to achieve what we call win-win situation. But if you don't deal with it, there is a likelihood you might end up with a win-loss situation. So somebody wins and the other person loses. That is litigation. When you go to the court and the lawyer is here, ni lazima kupatikane mwenye makosa. And so it's a win-loss situation. What you want also to avoid is loss-loss. Have you ever heard of this man who walks into his family, is getting agitated, and then finally he comes, kills everybody at home, and then finally kills himself? It doesn't happen. You have never read about those things. They do happen. They do happen. Together in an abyss. Hakuna mtu anaishwa, tunaacha hapa. Tunaenda sisi wote. And so forth. You want to avoid such a situation. And actually these are the stages. So the first thing is you identify there is a problem that requires to be solved. Number 2, there is a disagreement. Personal protection over collaboration. Then there is contest. Then we move from contest, we go to a crusade, because there are some people who have gotten to that camp and the other people have gotten to this camp. That's what happens in a conflicting situation. You find now division. Now where do we end up? It gets into world war. Now, this is what I would want to suggest. Those 9 stages, I want you to look at the first 3. If we, the first 3 years, where there is tension, there is debate, action instead of words. If we resolve that conflict, we will end up with a win-win situation. Everybody wins. But if we allow it to go from 4th to 6th, we will have a win-lose situation. And finally, if we don't, limited destruction, there's total annihilation, and then together into the abyss. You don't care where we go. Is that we have a loss situation. The earlier a conflict is identified and is dealt with, is confronted, the better. Lakini sometimes in Christian circles, we are praying about it. We are praying. But nobody is confronting the issue. You know that this guy is a trouble source, but you don't want to confront him. You know that this lady is really the troublesome. The reason why the women ministry is not thriving is because of this person. But nobody is willing to confront and say, I think we need to talk about this issue. Companies actually fail because of employees. Employees who we don't want to hurt, we don't want to talk to. Finally, you will find the company actually collapsing. No, confront the issue when it arises. So, what are the causes of conflict? The causes of conflict are interdependency conflict. In church is a good one because the ushers, I don't know how offering is collected here, but I would imagine the ushers are involved, right? The ushers collect the offering. The offering is taken to, what do you call them? The counters, or they are the same people who count. There is somebody else who count. Then there is now the treasurer to record the figure. Can you see the interdependence there? Is that if one person actually makes a mistake, you have trouble. Or let me give the example of a service. As people come in, they are driving in, they are being shown parking. Those guys that we call traffic people, they don't look like they are very useful. But wait until they don't direct people and you have chaos in the compound. Then There are people, I don't know what you call them, we call them the welcomers. They greet people with a smile. They contribute to the health of that service. If they are not smiling, now somebody who is new to that church is wondering, which church did I come to here? Then the usher is mishandling, we keti hapo, anasema mimi niko na mtoto. We keti, ni mimi nimesema? Ni mimi nimesema. Then the whole thing, hata pastor sasa akienda kuhubiri, maneno imeharibi. And then hata hiyo worship team wako off key, totally off key. Wanaimba nyimbo ya it is supposed to lead you into prayer, lakini ni panda shuka. Ai. Hii maneno gani hii? Naona maneno imeenda mrama. Interdependency. In other words, the work I do, there is somebody actually who picks it up from there. And then the other person picks it up. Interdependency. Then there is differences in styles, in the way we do things. There is difference in backgrounds. Where I come from, what I have experienced is totally different from you. Then differences in leadership, and finally personality clashes. Because we are all products of nature and nurture. That's what gives the personality that you find us expressing ourselves in. And we are all different. And that can be a source of conflict. There are some adverse effects of conflict if it's allowed to continue. Number one is higher stress among parties. There are lower productivity as the energy is directed towards solving the conflict. Then there is lower cohesion as people will take sides. And then time to resolve is taking away from more important things, and then increased costs of resolution. Sometimes you've got to go to court, sometimes you hire a mediator, sometimes you do this, and all this is costly. And part of what actually causes all this problem is because when the conflict began to emerge, we ignored it. We hoped that it will resolve itself. It needs to be discussed. It needs to be confronted. But let me say something positive about conflict. But it's in combination with something else. As long as there is trust, conflict becomes nothing but the pursuit of truth, an attempt to find the best possible answer. It's not only okay, but it's actually desirable to have that conflict as long as there is trust. Now, conflict without trust, however, is politics. It's an attempt to manipulate others in order to win an argument regardless of the truth. I took that from a book titled The Advantage, Why Organizational Health Trumps Everything Else in Business. In other words, we are saying, as long as there is trust, conflict is fine. Because it also means that everybody is invested in the interest of this organization or the task that we are doing. We are all interested. Hakuna mgeni hapa. Sisi wote tuko ndani. Na tunataka hii kitu to resolve. But now, quickly, I want to talk about conflict resolution mechanisms. And there are about 5 of them. So, you remember the y-axis and the x-axis, right? That's what we call the Cartesian. Now, look at the y-axis. The y-axis talks about self-concern or assertiveness, or how much you can confront. It moves from low to high. Then on the x-axis, we have the level of cooperation with others. So, let's look at when you are low on confrontation and you are also low on cooperation with others, then the strategy to use is avoidance. But the question is, for how long can you avoid? There are cases where avoidance is a good strategy, especially where you have very low interest in the issue. Let me give you an example. In the traffic, when you're driving and you meet another driver who is extremely aggressive, na anakutusi, don't bother answering back. And I have an example. Actually, that taught me a lesson. One day, Gong Road was a single lane, and I'm driving down. There is a young man who is driving up, but he is on my lane. So I had to actually stop so that he can get to his lane. When he stopped, and now we are parallel to each other, he lowered his window, and he looked at me. He told me, "Mzee, ngui wewe." Gui is dog. Those who don't understand. Now I wondered, do I call him Nogo? Or do I get out and also deal with him? Then you realize, this young man, I don't know him. He doesn't know me. Most likely we'll never meet. So why bother? I learned a huge lesson on the road. Mimi ukinitusi ama ukinifanya madharau ni sawa, wewe endere. After all, me, I don't know you. I don't know where you are going. Me, I know where I'm going. But you, I do not know. That's why when you are coming from Kutus with the Pro box full of mogoka, I give you away so that you can take mogoka where you are taking it. I don't know where you are taking it. Sawa sawa. So when the stakes are low, avoidance sometimes is the best thing. And you don't know this person. Don't engage with a person that you do not know. But let's look at when you're high on confrontation, but you don't like cooperating with anybody. Now, the person I'm saying you should be cooperating with is not anybody else. It is this person you have a conflict with. Now, that is what we call competition. Competitive. Like a lion. A lion does not discuss with a gazelle whether you would like me to eat you. You don't ask for permission to be eaten. No. It is competitive. And there is also room for that, where you don't negotiate with someone. I went to NYS. I didn't last for too long. But there, tuliambiwa amri ni kubwa kuliko aliyeito. Ukiambiwa uluke, never ask why am I jumping. Is it to lose weight? No. You jump first. Then finally when you have landed, you say, by the way, afande, kwa nini uliniambia niluke? And there are cases like that. I am told in theater, when a doctor is performing a surgery, are there medics here? It is no room for you to keep negotiating whether I'm giving you Caesar or I'm giving you this. You give what is demanded, right? Because this person might wake up, the anesthesia might dry out, and the guy find his stomach opened. What discussion are you going to have with this? So there is room for command. And I think even at a spiritual level, there is also time when a spiritual leader does not negotiate. When you have closed now the line. Truth must be spoken, and it must be spoken clearly so that we don't leave anyone in doubt. Especially if you invite somebody and they start misquoting scripture, they're interpreting the wrong way. No. You can't allow that to go unanswered. It must be corrected. Just find an opportune time to correct it. And correct it well and say, yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. for actually mentioning the day that King Uzziah died. I saw the Lord, and that's why Uzziah's must die. Then, but that's not the proper interpretation of Scripture. A few people may have gotten saved as a result, but it's okay. Because they killed their Uzziah. Yeah. It seems you have been preaching that message, you. Okay, very good. Now, let's look at accommodation. When you are low on confrontation, kuna watu hataki to confront anybody. They simply agree with everybody. They are willing to cooperate. That's the chameleon mentality. Chameleon is such a way, akipanda mti ya green, anakuwa green. A red one, anakuwa red. But for how long can you keep accommodating everybody? Let's move to another one called compromise. Compromise is where you say, yesterday I am the one who gave in. So today is your, regardless of the merit of the case. Kwa sababu jana I am the one nilishuka, na wewe leo lazima ufanye nini? Ushuke. And maybe the issue that you are discussing, it's such a way that even though you are the one who ulishuka jana, hata leo inatakiwa ufanye nini? Because of the merit of the case. That is compromise. But let's now go to collaboration. Collaboration is the gold standard when it comes to conflict management. Because in collaboration, we are all headed towards the same thing, the same goal. I give the example of dolphins. Dolphins, when you see them hunting fish, a dolphin cannot outrun a fish. So what dolphins will do is to gather fish together. And they chase them together and put them together almost like a ball. Now, each of the dolphin can now eat. But if you chase, you'll starve to death. Collaboration. Let's work together towards resolving this conflict. Now, I want to avoid to skip that. Is a video. Allow me to move to the final thing, which is succession planning. And in all these things that we are saying, do you remember Mr. Irago talking about the bylaws and the policy documents? Then a board must develop a policy document on conflict resolution. Then develop a policy document on succession planning. Because if it is not doing that, then the question is, who is? Who is doing it if you are not doing it? Now, let's look at succession planning. You know, succession planning is that strategy which is used to pass leadership roles down to another leader. And it ensures that the organization continues to run smoothly and without interruption. After a leader moves on to new opportunities, they retire or they pass on. And so, it is the role of the board to ensure there is succession planning policy and a plan especially for the top leaders. Amen. You know, I feel like asking us to stand up just a little bit. Just a little bit. Let's stand. Let's stand. Let's stand. Let's stand. You know Mississippi, the river Mississippi? You don't know. There is a river called Mississippi. You have heard of it? Yes. So I want us to draw M with our body. Let me demonstrate. Now this is M for me, like that, and like that. That's an M. Then the I is a small I. It has a loop. So you do like this, and then there is a double S. And if you are trying to go to the gym like me, it is time to show that you have that six-pack. So the S go like,
Let's start with M. Okay? The first I. I'm talking in a Okay, the first S. Aha. Very good. They are double actually. All right. There is an I. And then there is another double S. It's trying to show off, Very good. Okay, tuendelee tena. All right, and then there is a P. It is a long P. And then, no, it's double P actually. Yes. Okay, like that. Then that. Then another P. And then we have an I, the final one. Let's take our seats. Until the third eye that some people left to the ground. So, where's my mic? Thank you.
So I was saying that we need policy and so forth to deal with this. So, in succession planning, what should be included in that policy document? Number one is the term limit for the leader in each position. Mr. Oirago and I have talked about that we are retired because there is a term limit to that office. In CITAM, pastors retire at 65. They can get an extension. The bishop retires this way, serves 2 terms, each of 5 years, or 65, whichever comes first. Mumenyita. 2 terms, each of 5 years. All age 65, whichever comes. And you cannot appoint it as a bishop if your age cannot give us a full 5-year term. Meaning that if you are over 60, you are unlikely to ascend to the office of the bishop. This is the constitution. So what is the term limit in the office that you occupy? Treasurer. Forever. Mpaka Yesu arudi. Very good. Very good. Then that's why we can't even talk about succession planning, right? Okay, let's continue. All the retirement age, the second thing that should be included is the retirement age. Then the third thing, by when should the process of succession begins? If we know that Waithima is retiring in, say, 3 years, when should we start thinking about succession? Who is going to succeed? Because if you wait until the final year, the battle will be too intense. Deal with it way ahead. Even a year, 2 years ahead. You can even give the outgoing person, the last year, you give it a sabbatical. Go for sabbatical, but you already have identified somebody. Are you seeing? That way you avoid a lot of speculation and the jostling that comes with people wanting to occupy position. The fourth one is the process of identifying the successor. When that process kicks in, what are you going to include? What are you going to look for? One, I am sure you want to say, what are the qualifications? They must have done this, they must have done the other. Then you're saying, what is the age? The age limit. I think we have another policy in CITAM we cannot employ you as a pastor if you are above 50 years. We want to start with you earlier. Because that gives us time. Because if we employ you after 50, then we are only getting some 15 years from you. Because at age 65, you retire. And you can see the rationale why the crafters of that document thought it that way. Then, the role of the retiring leader in identifying the successor. Are they going to be removed or are they going to be part of it? ETC. Then the other thing to think about is handling the transition period, the handing over, and the orientation of the successor. How are you going to do it? Did you realize that in the US, when the president has finished their term, it kicks in, and even in Kenya, kicks in, the military, the Secret Service begin now to feed the incoming person with information. This is where we are. This is a security thing, whatever it is. This is how the economy is performing, and so forth. They begin immediately. You realize that even when Donald Trump was beginning to bring trouble, the power had already shifted. Whether you were there to hand over or not, the power was already handed over. Now, the next thing to think about is how to take care of the retiring leader. Question, is there a pension? What will be their role after they retire? By the way, leaders, please know this, that if you retire, then become a little bit what? Scarce. Because if you remain around there, people are still pledging allegiance to. So for a period, you may want to take a walk so that the new person can naturally settle in. And then once they have settled in, now you can return. And then the policy kicks in. What do you agree will happen to the leader once this is done? But have we answered the question, is there a pension for the retiring person? Have we answered that question? Is it a critical one to think about? Yes. Because if you are not going to take care, then the person is saying, hey, why am I handing over? Mimi siendi. Mulikuwa wapi nikianza? Haya. Then the outgoing leader, I am saying keep off office for a period of time after retirement or whatever it is that has taken you out. Let me just pause there for this document to sink in. You look like you're the one who will craft it, eh? The policy document for succession. Assisted by our brother, the lawyer, right? You're not sure that the two of you will be there. Okay, the young people will do, right? Very good. Any comment on this? Yes, sir.
Mine is a comment.
Yeah.
In terms of succession planning, even in terms of ministries, we seem to be mainly talking about retirement age, but should the factor of that, for example, treasurer has left the post of being the treasurer, but has not attained the retirement age. So what role does he go to play? Does he start playing again? Or does he just become now a regular member because he has served X number of terms?
Good question. In other words, he is asking, do we allow people to move into other roles of leadership? That's what you are saying. Again, your document should be the one that says what what exactly you want. Do you want to waste the talent that is in this person? Now that they have ceased to be treasurer, can they come in back to play another role? I think that's a question you're asking. And for sure, your policy document is the one that should guide what should happen to that. And for how long should they stay out before they come in? Wacha akuwe raia kidogo. And you know, by the way, kukua raia, let me begin this way. Retiring or leaving an office is not as easy as you think. It feels nice to be called treasurer. It feels nice to to know that unless I sign that check, nothing is being bought. It feels nice. Wait until that privilege is, and you see, as a treasurer, I'm sure there is somewhere they give you a seat to, somewhere to sit, right? Oh, unakaa nyuma kwa sababu ya mtoto. But treasurer wa kanisa anakanga nyuma, right? So now, but tukienda kukunywa chai, mgeni akisidikishwa, treasurer ni lazima akuwe karibu. You sign check na anapatiwa chai. Sawa. Sasa when you cease to be treasurer, hiyo chai ujue sio yako. Unakunywa huko na raia kwa kibadaski huko nje. So there is certain and you can walk to the bishop's office because you are going to discuss business, right? Now when you cease to be, there is some protocol. So when you knock, the bishop will ask, oh, you have come. Because he's wondering now, you get? Yes. When you leave leadership, there is some void that comes. And I have left leadership myself. So including the people who used to call you, they are no longer calling you. Because they are calling you for what? You are no longer important. All right. Was there another question? Yes. Hata hiyo ni swali mzuri. So anauliza, ni lazima mtu alitae? The answer is maybe yes, maybe not. Because whether you retire or you don't, one day you'll leave that position, right? Through death or whatever it is. Do you want to die in office, or do you want to leave and mentor other people into that role? I think it's better to mentor someone else in that role. And to also sit. Ministry is difficult. You are consistently thinking about ministry. You may wish to hand over to someone else so that you can deal with something else, right? Very good. Lakini sio lazima. Mimi sitaki kusema ni lazima, lakini mimi naonelea kwa uzuri yake, I think wewe retire. All right. Someone else? Okay. Yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Yeah. Hey, I had him. This one, very good. But now we have said it's important to think about it, and how will the ministry actually run after that. So succession planning process. Let me talk about the process. Is number one, identification of competencies required by a leader in a certain role. So, for example, we require a leader of the men ministry, the women ministry, the what? How do we develop the competencies? Do you have then a curriculum that you take people through to make sure that these competencies are growing within the church? I told you that for us, we have developed a curriculum we call SMLD, School of Ministry and Leadership Development, to make sure that we are developing leaders. in CITAM? Do we have a similar curriculum? Then you ask yourself, a screening process for those to go through the development program, that through that development. Then subject people into leadership roles, delegation of leadership role, coaching and mentorship. Ikiwa wewe ndiwe chairman wa hii kikundi, please make sure that you are mentoring someone, and when you go on leave or you travel, you are leaving somebody in charge so that they are getting to understand how this ministry works. Very important. And then it is the whole question of constitute a search committee once the retirement date is determined. Then a discussion about how to take care of the retiring leader. That needs to be a part of that policy that talks about transitions and succession planning, and then design the transition process. What information does the incoming person get to know? How are you now transitioning slowly to make sure that there is seamless transition of power, to make sure that the new person is actually mandated, fully mandated and empowered to take decisions. Amen. Actually, maybe yes, maybe not. But if treasurer is not mentoring someone, you can see the gap. Him, he has already known how to learn this thing. So if there is no transition to make sure that he is mentoring someone, when he leaves, there will be a big, big gap. He knew what to pay when. Perhaps he didn't even need to be called. He knew, I pay this on this date, I pay this. This other person does not know. So it may not be as elaborate, but I think there is always a succession planning for each of the office bearers. I would like to thank you.
Every leader has a responsibility to develop their own replacement. If you look behind and there is nobody who can take over from you, you are failing the organization you are leading. It should be such that it doesn't matter at what time you have to leave, but you should be confident enough, in my absence, this will happen. So that should, yes. And the period, as Prof has said, let there be circles of time, even for re-energizing, just to take a break and ask the Lord whether I should continue serving. It's very good for you. Sometimes even for the family. Because service takes you away. So you may need time, a break of 1 year before you can come back. So those transitions are very important.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm looking to see whether there's a question, and I can see there is none. Oh.
Thank you very much. A comment and a question. Referring back to Brother Treasurer. All small churches like GCI, most of the time, 60 to 70% of the time, you are dealing with crisis of not having enough resources, how to mobilize resources, and even for the pastor, either having new members, problematic members, people they are trying to settle. And the issues of succession and the cycles become very tricky. This church for the last, how many years? 10 years. We've been settling. So I think the leadership need to be to have a foresight and look ahead, that through the crisis, how do we manage transitions? Because at some point, if you change a treasurer, it is just too difficult for a new person to handle the finances because they are not there. He's managing money that is not there more than the money that is there and trying to mobilize more. But at some point, the crisis will end. So the cycles of transition may be compressed to what bigger churches have, like. Yes, and then there's that issue. When you're coming from a church is growing, you're coming from crisis to when there is something solid. Like when there is not money to money that can be managed. If you transition a treasurer, then kweli atasikia, I labored, and then when things just became good, you want me out. So I think there are all those dynamics that need to be incorporated in the leadership, but foresight is very key.
And I want to just pick what you have said last about kanisa imenawili, sasa ndio mnaniambia nie. Do you know that is the best time to retire? Are you aware? That's the best time to retire. You are retiring on a high note. Hii kitu wakiua, mimi niliacha ikiwa wapi? Ikipepea. That's why sometimes, even if you when the profitability is very high, anaambia board, mimi nataka kwenda for family reason, mi naenda. Because maybe here they have looked at the projection. In the next 2 years, hapa kutakuwa na shi. Anasema mimi sitaki kukua ya kwamba na kuotiwa. That I'm the one who actually collapsed this thing. That's when you find an organization that is limping, be very careful with it. Because they will actually say you are the one who killed it. And so forth. So for me, I think cycles of retirement and changing of leadership does not necessarily need to be tied to resources. No, it is leadership. Kama wewe umesukuma, umefikisha hapa na miaka yako imeisha, wacha mwingine akuje, maybe they will have fresh ideas, you never know. And things might become better. Amen. Yes. I want to thank you most dangerously for listening to us. But also recommend Bishop that all the things that we have covered today, I am very sure you have heard. These notes are coming to you. We want to recommend that you now think of when to retreat to ask, what were these people saying? Whether it is the entire group or it is a select committee that goes and says, what did we spend a whole Saturday doing? What are we hearing? What is the Spirit saying? Otherwise, thank you very much. God bless you.
Karibu sana. Fantas, thank you for your service. Thank you. Our